people are people.
Yeah.
You have people who don't like non-Japanese people living here, let alone being in entertainment.
Yes,
and
sir.
being famous to boot. Oh man, I've had some really bad altercations and interactions with people who were just not good.
Welcome to another episode of the Melanated Files. My name is Ranzo and today I'm joined by Dante Carver, right? Actor, producer, and just multifaceted, multi-talented human being in Tokyo, Japan. Right?
Good to be here. Good to be here.
All right, thanks for coming on.
Everybody.
So we're gonna dive into Dante's story right now.
何ですか？
あなたの眉毛。
つながりそうだぞお前の眉毛。
すみませんお父さん。
プラチナバンドみたいね。
なんだそれ。
ソフトバンクの電波がこれからもっとつながりやすくなるのよ。
それはすごい。おい、聞いてるのか？
うん。
聞いてませんでした。お前は家政婦です。確か宇宙で。よろしくお願いします。かしこまりました。
予想外です。
予想外です。
家政婦さんも眉毛つながってる。
プラチナ眉毛だ。
プラチナバンドこれから順次拡大中です。ソフトバンク。
So Dante,
yes,
you are a famous actor in Japan, of course. And back in I saw this thing that said back in 2008 you were the most famous or most popular TV personality in Japan.
Yeah, so that's called the ACC Awards. Basically, what they do is fans can nominate and actually vote on the most popular commercial talent. They have male category, female category, and the person that had it for 8 years running was from the big pop group that recently disbanded called SMAP.
Okay.
Kimutaku. He had it for 8 years, so 2008, 2009, I was voted and won the award for that.
How did that feel? Like, how was that? Like,
when my agent at the time told me about it, I actually didn't really fully grasp how big it was, because it's like, oh, okay, it's kind of like a local thing. And she's like, no, it's a national thing. To her understanding, I was the first non-Japanese person that it happened to.
Okay.
And especially dethroning the person that had it, because he's a big deal. 8
years in a row.
Yeah, he had it 8 years in a row. No one had it that long.
Wow.
Apparently. 8 years in a row. And I, well, you know, thankful, grateful that people liked me and the content that I was doing at the time and things of the nature, and I got voted and won 2 years in a row. That was cool. It was really cool.
Wow.
So I'd say the first year it didn't really sink in until I was at the award ceremony. And I was like, oh wow, that's kind of a big thing. Cool. And because I was just trying to figure things out still. You know, I'd been in the business here for at least 2.5, 3 years by that point.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning, right? So so why Japan and why acting in Japan? Okay,
as a child, had always wanted to do entertainment. So was acting and modeling since I was 4. You know, stage stuff, bit pieces here and there, whatever, in Europe and the US. Then when it came to Japan, I had, like, as I mentioned, Europe, had been in Europe or the US for most of my life, and it's like, never been to Asia. Really big into martial arts, love action, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, all that kind of stuff. Just, they hit a nerve with me.
Okay.
I didn't see anybody doing that who looked like me in Japan. So it's like, hey, let me study, come over here and do it. So the original plan was to go to China, study for a year, year and a half, Kung Fu, and then come here to get into action and stunt work.
Okay.
And things went in many different directions. It got canceled, so I couldn't go to China. And my Japanese friends from university was like, hey, why don't you just come visit us for a month or 2 and figure things out? So that's what I did. And I got scouted by 4 agencies the first week I was here.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, maybe there's something here, but still I don't know the language, don't know the country. Had some family things going on with my grandfather and so on back home. Let me take a beat and come back.
Okay.
So that's basically what I did. And when I got back here, I kind of started putting out feelers. Okay, well, what agencies are good, or what can I do, what can't I do, that kind of stuff. Because again, like I mentioned, I didn't speak the language, which was a challenge because I ended up doing a lot of auditioning and stuff like that. But 23 auditions or whatever that.
Wait, 100 and how much?
Yeah.
I did 100 plus auditions.
23 auditions total, whereas like I didn't get it.
Wow.
For a number of reasons. This is over a good 9-month period.
Okay.
I would get little bit jobs and bit work, but not what I really wanted, and nothing really contracted. So it's like without a contract, it makes living a little difficult.
Okay.
Because you're living basically from paycheck to paycheck. And the way you're paid here is very different, even now, than it is, say, in the US.
Okay.
So your pay scale's lower, definitely. And then also when it comes time to pay you for transportation, like say if I take the bullet train, because I was in Kansai, to Tokyo, at that time, it was like $120. So say, oh, hey, thanks for coming to the audition, or thanks for your work, whatever. Here's $50 for transportation.
That doesn't cover it.
It doesn't cover it. So it's like, okay, well, now what? So when I did actually get asked to do the first commercial, which was for Vodafone at the time, I was still doing modeling work and stuff like that. Matter of fact, I had a billboard here in Tokyo, for Lifeguard. And, it was the typical, I'm in sportswear and I'm in a, track pose, and that was basically about it. But when I got contracted, it was because they had asked me to come back for the second commercial. The first commercial left me broke. Okay. Like 564 yen in my bank account broke. Wow. So for those who don't know, if you're looking at one-to-one, it's about less than $6 in my bank account because everything that I was paying for was out of pocket. So that was hard. And it was one of those where, should I stay? Should I go back home? Because I had been knocking on doors for a while. Okay. Had a notebook that had all the auditions and stuff that I went through. And any producer or casting director that I talked to that was willing to give me information, is like, hey, how come I didn't get it, or what was the issues or whatever. And it'd be something as simple as like too tall, too short, too big, too small, too dark, too light. The too dark one I thought was interesting because, back in the States, people don't look at me as being dark skinned. Yeah. But here, they're like, oh, you're so dark. And I'm like, in comparison to who? I guess I have blinders on, or comparison. Yeah, exactly. To who? Yeah. So it's like, basically it's their way of saying not what they're looking for. And that's fine. Heartbreaking as it is, as part of the entertainment business. Wasn't fun, but definitely a learning experience. What kept you going? Not wanting to fail. Okay. At not trying. So I'm a big believer in, you give it everything, it may not work out, you still get something from it. Okay. You still learn something. And also because, there's many little things, but I remember when I came over, there were some people that were around me who were naysayers. Okay. Haters, negative, and some of them downright racist. And they're like, well, you can't do it. You can't do acting and things in Japan. I'm like, well, why not? It's like, well, look at you, you're black. Wow. And I'm like, so that's a negative thing? Or like, what's up? Well, like, you don't speak the language, you're black. And, they just, the way they were putting it, they all were pushing it as a complete negative aspect of being who I am. Yeah. And that's the complete opposite of who I am. So I was determined to not so much just prove to them, but prove to myself that not only are they incorrect, but it shouldn't matter what your skin color is. You should be able to do whatever it is you set out to do. There will be hurdles. Yes. It's not going to be easy. Yeah. But you can't let someone stop you from doing what you're doing just because you look different. Yeah. And, my parents raised me like that. And I try to not just remind myself of that when things get difficult, but when I'm talking to other people, to try and instill that into them. Because yes, we may look differently because we're from different backgrounds, but at the end of the day, we're the same. Indeed. We wake up the same, we sleep the same, we eat. Yep. We live, we love, we cry, we laugh, whatever. We may speak different languages, but you're still a person. Indeed. So
So when did the big break come? Like the big break, right? So that SoftBank commercial, like what was the first thing?
The SoftBank commercial, I'd say that the first big break was actually having my face in Shibuya.
Okay.
And that was on the billboard. Because I had it sounds cheesy, but you know, it is what it is. At that time, I had a list of things that I had to achieve or try to achieve or as close to it as possible for myself.
Okay.
And then on the other side, it was like, okay, I want to get a contract with an agency and or a sponsor, because that's where your careers start and or that's where actual money is to survive. So I'd say the biggest break was definitely when I landed the SoftBank contract, because it gave me a chance to meet people, see more of the country, which is something I really wanted to do but just didn't have the money for it. And it also gave me a chance to see how things are within the Japanese entertainment business, both positive and negative, because you know, entertainment is entertainment. There's a shady side to everything. Business is business. But learning that, and still learning, but learning it at that time really helped me see through a lot of things that I needed to see, but was blinded by, the pizzazz of, I got this, I got that.
Okay.
So, you know, the glitter and the glam of, you've got this job or you did that, is still a job. You still have to...
Pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely pros and cons.
When you went to the Vodafone commercial,
I was an extra.
Okay, so talk about that, because I know that's how you transitioned into...
Yeah. Okay, so had been trying to get into television and film here in Japan since the beginning, because I wanted to do Kamen Rider or Power Rangers, because like I mentioned at the beginning, no one had really done that.
Okay.
So going to different agencies, not being signed to one, it was freelance, and I just so happened to get picked up because of the picture selection. So the director saw my picture, liked my name, and he was like, hey, ask this person to come and this person, that person. So 2 or 3 people got selected, and we ended up going on to production as extra. So, you know, I'm sitting in the back, minding my business, we're on break, and, you know, talking, having jokes and whatever.
Yeah.
The director hears me speaking a little bit of Japanese. I spoke at the time, and I was speaking in Kansai band at the time because that's where I lived. And he was like, hey, come here, can you say these lines? And that was basically when it was like, hey, sumimasen, kitemasen deshita, and yosogai desu. Because when I started, that was the yosogai series, where now it's the White Family series.
Okay.
Which is very different. Explanation later. But for the most part, it ended up being one of those where it's like he heard me, he liked it, I tested, and people in the head office liked it. So like, hey, can you have him come back next week for a follow-up commercial?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not a contractor or anything like that, but a follow-up commercial means extra money in my pocket. So yeah, I'm free. So I was already in Tokyo anyway, filmed it, and in the middle of filming, you know, in Japan, when they have something important to tell you, when someone comes up to you and they just go tap, do like this to you, it's one of 2 things. They're going to tell you something really cool or really bad.
Okay.
Because when they come up and tap you, because stateside we do like this.
Yeah.
Underhand, overhand in Japan, and it's like, oh, what happened? Something's wrong. It's like, hey, we want to talk to you. Would you have any interest in being exclusive with SoftBank? I'm like, yes.
Yes.
Where do I sign? You know, and it's not that I wanted to just jump at the first thing available.
Yeah.
But it felt like the right time. And it also, you know, outside of not having any money, it was, hey, I had a good working experience so far with these people. Let me see where it goes.
Okay.
And there weren't many people in Japan, especially of color, doing anything like it. So it's like, maybe it's my time to try it and see how it goes. So I said yes.
Okay.
At the same time, that week, what many people don't know is I actually auditioned for Kurata Studios, which is a action and stunt company. So they do all of the Power Rangers and Super Sentai and Kamen Rider movies or whatever at the time, and I passed.
Okay.
So it's like, oh man, now's my chance. But they were, what I really appreciate about them is like, look, being honest, you don't look Japanese, you don't speak the language yet, so we can't guarantee that you're going to get a speaking and or leading role. No matter how good your action is, we can't guarantee because no one had done it, and you have skills that you need to build first.
Okay.
You might be an extra, you might be in costume the whole time, but you'll still be able to learn and progress, and we'll see how it goes. We can't guarantee it. And at first I was frustrated, and then it was like, actually, I'm really glad they said that, and they were awesome because they were like, we don't want to waste your time. We like you, and we like what we see, but we also need you to understand everything that's going on. It was like, okay, cool. And because I got the contract with SoftBank, I was like, this is guaranteed, and I could progress in the entertainment business and go from there.
Yeah.
And then come back to it if that's what God has planned.
Yeah.
So, signed.
All right, nice.
A very long loop, but yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, so when you got the SoftBank gig, right? So for those of you guys who don't know, like, explain to them what the gig was.
Okay.
And also how you felt once you started seeing yourself on TV, and what the response was from Japanese people and the foreign community as well.
Sure. So I'm one of those people where after I film a project, I don't like looking at it.
Okay.
I don't like to see myself.
Okay.
It's nice to see it maybe once if we're in the middle of filming and you get to look at the dailies and it's like, oh, can we do that scene again? And maybe give a different take or something like that? Okay, that's fine. But once the project's done, I don't like to see it. Just putting that out there, footnote. But doing the commercials, it was always a surprise because, and going back, for those that don't know, SoftBank is one of the largest cell phone companies here in Japan. And now they're more than just mobile devices and services. But when they started, it was kind of like that. Now they're into, electricity and gas and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, when I started, no one on TV was like me at the time. The few people that were doing more of like comedy skits and slapstick stuff like that, which I'm like, I don't want to have anything to do with because I had this fear of typecasting.
Okay.
But doing the commercials and going around was absolutely amazing because it's what, hey, SoftBank show. It's what I had started out for. I wanted to go in, put smiles on people's faces. If it's something that makes people cry but makes them feel something, that's what I got into the acting business for.
Okay.
Because that's how I felt, and that's what I see when I look at people like Denzel Washington and Will Smith, Lawrence Fishburne. Growing up and seeing people like that, that's what I wanted to do. And Bruce Lee, because he had a huge impact on me, given before my time, but growing up watching Bruce Lee and other kung fu theater with my mom, it just hits a nerve a certain way. So being able to walk around and people be like, hey, Dante, good job, or at that time, Yosogai, because that was the name of the character. And the character's name is meaning to do something unexpected, but also in a witty or smart way.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a play on words. I love that character because it was always different. They give me a script and it's like, hey, this is what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, I'm fighting a giant octopus. Okay, whatever, sure. I'm in space. It's always something different and fresh. So I enjoyed that because it wasn't so much just that the focus was me. I'm doing something somewhat challenging because every other project I was doing, whether it be a variety TV show, drama, whatever, the scripts somewhat seemed to rotate around the same atmosphere.
Okay.
So I enjoyed the variety of scripts through those interactions and production for SoftBank in general. And starting to build recognition in Japan, not just for the character, but also as myself. People started to recognize me for who I am as opposed to just the character that I'm portraying in the commercials. Given that became a very, very strong brand. And like I said, pros and cons, there are pros and cons to that because inadvertently ended up getting typecast.
Okay.
But also keeping in mind that I'm also very grateful for the opportunities that I was given, and I love the fan interaction and the support and things of that nature. That's always good. But sometimes you do have to draw a line, otherwise you don't learn anything. People only see you as a certain character.
Well, not to be negative, but anything
okay.
in terms of like doing the SoftBank commercial, being a face, right, being all over Japan.
Yeah.
Were there any talks about you being black and you know, being given so much publicity? What was that like?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've dealt with the negative side of that. You know, it's not that every Japanese person is racist or negative to begin with, or to other cultures. But yeah, you know, like I mentioned in the beginning, people are people. Yeah. You have people who don't like non-Japanese people living here, let alone being in entertainment.
Yes,
and
sir.
Being famous to boot. Oh man, I've had some really bad altercations and interactions with people who were just not good.
Okay.
You know, one of them was with someone who was in a high position, had lost the position. I ended up taking that spot, and they were quite negative to me when they first met me. And I'm like, I don't get it. Why? And they were negative to me when we first met. And I was like, why are you like that? And it's like, because you're not Japanese. And it's like, shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter if everyone else in Japan, at least somewhat on the surface so far, has accepted me. Why can't you? You know, I'm in your country and I'm trying to learn your culture and your language and still be respectful of all that. Why does it have to be, you know, the opposite? So that takes getting used to.
Okay.
When people come over here and you have these interactions with people, like you sit down on the train, which I rarely do, but if you sit down on the train and the person that's sitting there gets up and moves away from you, yeah, that hits a nerve. It's like,
yep.
Well, what's wrong with me? Why do you have to move? And some people, they're uncomfortable because they don't want to sit next to anybody. And in other cases, they don't want to sit next to a non-Japanese person because of an innate fear of the unknown. They don't know anything about you. So sometimes it comes off as being somewhat racist and standoffish, and sometimes it's mainly because they don't know anything about you and your culture. It's easier for them to not interact with it and deal with it than to actually deal with it. And that happens in entertainment as well.
So when you started out, right, did you speak Japanese?
No.
So tell me about that
I
progress.
Could say...
Yeah, tell me about that and like how you became conversationally fluent in Japanese.
Still not conversationally fluent in Japanese. Still learning every day. There's a lot of vocabulary that you find that within this circle of people, there's certain words and phrases that they use every day that you just pick up because of those situations. So I'd say I know more situational Japanese in certain situations. Some of it's transferable, some of it's not. When I first came here, the family that I was with back in the States, Japanese family, that was trying to help me with learning Japanese, things of that nature, and bless them because they're amazing people, the Kawanos. They gave me a little book to study and stuff like that, and I would study it, but I didn't really have anyone to pair off of after getting here, because the idea, you know, me trying to be the smart one, let me live in Kyoto or the countryside where there's no one that speaks English, so I'm forced to learn the language, was the thinking.
Okay.
Lo and behold, everyone around me spoke English. Every production I went on, English-speaking staff. So I ended up basically going to my comfort zone and speaking in English because it was available.
Okay, understood.
Which unfortunately didn't do me any favors. But picking up the language, a lot of it was from scripts, having dinner or lunch with, you know, one or two people, if not other cast members. Utada Hikaru, I kid you not, my absolute all-time favorite Japanese artist from, what, the year 2000? Up till now, helped me learn a lot of simple things in Japanese. Just the way she wrote the lyrics, I may not have understood, but the style and the tone really hit with me. And I was like, wow, that's let me look this up. Then we'll look it up and say, oh, well, that's what it means. Oh, okay. And then I try and use it. I'm still learning, honestly, because when I first got here, a lot of the productions and things, given they were Japanese productions, maybe in Japan, English-speaking staff, or we would film outside Japan. So I had no use for speaking in Japanese. Then when things started to change and go more towards studio work, I had to learn to speak more Japanese, or I was specifically told not to learn more, because the more I would learn, the natural reaction that I would have to it wouldn't stand out so much. And that was the thing at the time.
Okay.
So it made it more difficult, because personality-wise, I want to learn. I want to know. So forcing myself not to learn too fast was a challenge. And then also, I'd go through periods where it's like, I want to learn, and then I get frustrated and it's like, let me stop. I need a break.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now you would say you are situationally fluent in Japanese, right?
Yeah. I mean, if I need to speak in Japanese for work, yeah, it's no problem.
Okay.
Do it. You know, but just like in English, you have good days, you have bad days. Some days, Japanese comes out so smooth and so eloquent, and you have days like nothing sticking. Why can't I remember, you know, the word for station or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, given obviously it's eki, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So tell me, like, what are some things, like other movies and projects you've worked on since being in Japan?
Well, there's a lot of movies I've worked on in Japan.
Some of your favorites?
Some of my favorites? Yeah, that's a loaded question. I would definitely say one of my favorites to work on for the action sequences and the director was Kamen Rider.
Okay.
I actually played a dragon in a Kamen Rider movie, and the title is super long. It's Kamen Rider Foze and X Mega Movie Max. It's super long, but anyways, if you look it up on IMDb, you'll see it. But it was fun because I got to play a character that wasn't similar to the commercials and other productions I had been in. I got to do some action, and the director actually was the action director for Power Rangers in the States. So I mean, it was like a partial dream come true, man. It was awesome.
Nice.
So again, yeah, Shimoda-san, thank you. Thank you. Other movies that I worked on that I had an interesting experience was As the Wind Blows, Kaze ga Suke Foiteru.
Okay.
And basically it's an ekiden or marathon movie. So here in Japan, every New Year's they have a marathon for all the universities. And I was the only person of color on the team playing a African. The ekiden movie was basically us me portraying an international student coming over to Japan, studying and being a strong runner. More recently, Biohazard, Resident Evil. So I did Resident Evil Vendetta and Infinite Darkness, which both are on Netflix and or Amazon. Motion capture and stuff like that, but it was just fun. Doing those in video games like Metal Gear Solid 5, that was definitely a fun experience. I enjoyed those.
Okay. What about other projects that you've done, like other things that you like doing? You act and you also produce and some
design. I do a lot of design work, and designs would be anything from logos to designs that are actually in graphics used in a feature. So Sturgill Simpson's Sound and Fury.
Okay.
I worked with Dayart and Arthel, who's one of my closest friends out here. I tend to do work with them a lot on different projects. One of them was Sound and Fury.
I saw that. Really good. Really good stuff.
Thank you. One of the features that we worked on, I have designs littered everywhere in that video.
Okay.
And I loved it because it was a good challenge to do something different, but also to work with Arthel again, because we work together a lot, but if I'm not designing something, I'm doing voice acting for his projects, which I have a blast doing. So working on that, there's one other project I worked on, but I can't say anything about it.
Okay.
NDA, but it was a really interesting experience. I'll say that. And working on toys, like I was the concept designer for Kotobukiya when we did the Killing Joke Joker, which got released several years ago, sold out practically as soon as they released it. That and Deathstroke, which came shortly after that. Hot Toys. I designed a couple things for their events. One was a original Captain America shield. Let's see, an Iron Man suit that was the AT-AT light armor, which was designed with the inspiration of Tron before they did their versions of it. Putting that out there because they did some recently. I'm like, you basically remade mine, man.
Wow.
And Batman, which was one of my favorites because at that time you had BVS, Batman v Superman coming out, and the idea and the concept that I had behind it was that Superman used Kryptonian technology to help build a suit for Batman to enhance protection and power form fighting against Darkseid. I get deep into that kind of stuff, but anytime I do a design, there's a deeper thinking behind it. So doing design work like that has definitely been fun. Oh, and I made an original Gundam for Bandai, which was pretty cool.
What would you say your black experience in Japan has been like since you've been here for what, 15, 16 years?
So off and on, and that's mainly been because of the contract with SoftBank. I would say it's been a mixed bag, both positive and negative. Negative because you have stereotypes that people are used to and can't see past because of lack of exposure. And having to get used to that and teach people new things at first is frustrating, but then at the same time it's nice because you learn to think outside of how you were brought up and see from another person's perspective. So taking negatives and turning it into positives is something I'm all about doing, especially when I'm working. Having situations where it's like, hey, we want to put a pie in your face because it's got white cream, we think will look good with the contrast to your skin. That's not going to happen. And I've been approached for a project like, it's like, no, but you know what, we can do something else that'll be just as entertaining. And giving them a different spin on things is always good because then they get to learn something. So I'd say my black experience in Japan has been, for the most part, positive. People have been mostly very open and caring and kind. You have a few people where it's like a few knuckleheads, but you know, there's more to life than just that small group of people or that situation.
Indeed.
So all in all, I'd say it's been fairly good. It could be better, and people could take the time to learn more about a culture that they want to expose or they want to share. They just need to take the time to do it. So yeah, we still have situations where you'll have a TV show that wants to do blackface, or you'll have someone who does something where, hey, we want to cast a black thug who's wearing like a big gold chain and white tank top, and he speaks like this and does this. You know, if it's a story that's based in like 70s, 80s, 90s, okay, I get it. But now I'm like, there's more. Come on. So there's still a little bit of a gap trying to get over and, you know, expose people to more.
People can type your name into Google and find you, but where can they find you online?
I'd say Instagram. I think I use that more than anything just because it's easy, plug and play. Dante Carver Official. I have a secondary Instagram account, which is the number 2, DC-san. And DC-san is my artist name, but also my, when I do designs, but also my design company name. I have a YouTube channel. It's DC-san. Keep on a lookout on my Insta, because I do post there.
So guys, there you have it. This was Dante Carver. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and remember to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this on the Black Experience in Japan. Until next time,
and
thanks for watching.
if you have any questions, comments, whatever, feel free to DM me on Instagram and or YouTube and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear back from you guys as well. So thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the time today.
No problem. All right. Until next time. Bye for now.
ありがとうございます。さいました。全然大丈夫です。ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます。どうも。いいえ。楽しんでくださいね。